everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe now. We are here at Woodville West because we visited our house build, and look at this house, it's almost finished. I think 8 weeks from now this house will be finished and we will be moving very soon. I'm so excited. And today I would like to tell you that the Australian Citizenship Part 3 testable booklet is now ready for you to study. Please watch this. Part 3 of Australian Citizenship testable booklet is all about government and the law in Australia. The government and the law in Australia. It is important for us to understand our system of government, how laws are made in our parliamentary democracy, and how laws are administered, and how we as citizens will have a say in running the country. Parliamentary democracy is Australia's system of government. How do I have my say? Through voting, you will have your say. Australian citizens aged 18 years or over must enroll to vote in federal, state, and territorial elections and in referenda and constitutional change. In Australia, citizens have a say in how Australia is governed by voting for a person to represent them in Parliament. Voting in an election is by secret ballot. That means you are free and safe to vote for any candidate you choose. Australian Electoral Commission, or AEC, is a Commonwealth agency responsible for conducting federal elections and referendums and maintaining the Commonwealth electoral roll, and it is independent of the government. Failure to vote in election may have to pay fines. In Australia, voting is compulsory to make sure that the people have a say in who will govern and represent them in Parliament. In raising matters with their representatives, Australian citizens can contact their elected representative to raise their concerns about government policy. How did we establish our system of government? Before 1901, Australia was made up of 6 separate self-governing British colonies. Each colony had its own constitution and laws that created difficulties between the colonies. As a result, people wanted to unite to the colonies to form a single nation. On the 1st January 1901, the colonies were united into a federation of states called the Commonwealth of Australia. The Australian Constitution came into effect and the Australian colonies became one independent nation called the Commonwealth of Australia. The Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900, or the Australian Constitution, is the legal document that sets out the basic rules for the government of Australia. The Australian Constitution established the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia, consisting of 2 houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The Australian Constitution also established the High Court of Australia, which has the ultimate power to apply and interpret the laws of Australia. The Australian people can change the Australian Constitution by voting in a referendum. In referendum, there needs to be a double majority for the Australian Constitution to be changed. How is the power of government controlled? The Australian Constitution divides the power of the government between 3 powers: the legislative power, the executive power, and the judicial power. The legislative power is the power to make laws. It consists of the Parliament, and Parliament is made up of representatives who are elected by the people. The executive power is the power to put laws into practice. It includes the Prime Minister, Australian government ministers, and Governor-General. Judicial power is the power to interpret and apply the law. It includes the judges and courts, and they are independent of Parliament and the government. Who is Australia's head of state? Australia is a constitutional monarchy, which means that the head of the state is the Queen. And the Queen of Australia is Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen does not live here in Australia and has no day-to-day role in government, and her powers are delegated to the Governor-General as a representative in Australia. The Queen has governors in each state to represent her in a role that is similar to the Governor-General. The Governor-General is appointed by the Queen of Australia as her representative in Australia on advice from Australian Prime Minister. He also acts independently of all political parties. The role of the Governor-General includes sign all bills passed by the Australian Parliament into law, which is called the Royal Assent, perform ceremonial duties, approve the appointment of the Australian government and its ministers, federal judges and other officials, start the process for a federal election, act as Commander-in-Chief of the Australian Defence Force. And the Governor-General has also a special powers known as reserve powers that can only be used in specific circumstances. The leader of Australian government is the Prime Minister. Who are some of Australia's leaders? As I mentioned earlier, the head of the state, who is the Queen of Australia, the Governor-General, who is a representative of the head of state in Australia, the Governor, who is the representative of the head of state in each Australian state, the Prime Minister, who is the leader of the Australian government, Premier, the leader of state government, Chief Minister, who is the leader of a territory government, a government minister, who is a member of parliament chosen by a government leader to be responsible for an area of government, member of parliament or MP, who is an elected representative of the people in the Australian Parliament or a state parliament, senator, who is an elected representative of a state or territory in the Australian Parliament, mayor or shire president, who is the leader of local government, and the councillor, who is an elected member of a local council. How is Australia governed? There are 3 levels of the government. The first level of the government is the Australian government. The second level is the state and territory government, and the third level is the local government. The Australian government is also called as the federal government or the Commonwealth Government. The Australian government is made up of members of the Australian Parliament, which has 2 houses. The first house is the Senate and the second is the House of Representatives. And this is the Senate, which is also called as the upper house. And there are 76 total senators elected, 12 senators in each state and 2 senators in each territory, regardless of Australia's population. This is the House of Representatives, which is also called as the lower house or the People's House. There are 150 members of the Parliament elected, and the members depends on Australia's population. The second level of the government is the state and territory government. Each state government has its own parliament and constitution. The leader of a state government is the Premier, and the leader of a territorial government is the Chief Minister. The third level of the government is the local government. The states and the Northern Territory are divided into local government area. Each area has its own local council. Councils are responsible for planning and delivering services to the local community. Councillor is an elected member of a local council. What do the 3 levels of government do? The first level is the Australian government, who is responsible for taxation, national economic management, immigration and citizenship, employment assistance, postal services and communication network, social security like pensions and family support, defense, trade and commerce, airports and air safety, foreign affairs in relation with other countries. The second level of the government is the state and territory government, who is responsible for hospital and health services, schools, roads and railways, forestry, police and ambulance services, and public transport. The third level of the government is the local government, who is responsible for street signs, traffic controls, local roads, footpaths, bridges, drains, parks, playgrounds, swimming pools, sports grounds, camping grounds, and caravan parks, food and meat inspection, noise and animal control, rubbish collection, local libraries, halls and community centers, certain child care and aged care issues, building permits, social planning, and local environmental issues. What role do political parties play in the way Australia is governed? Political party is a group of people who share similar ideas about how the country should be governed. They work together to have a party's ideas turned into laws. Those who do not belong to a party are called independents. How is the Australian government formed? After a federal election, Australian government is formed by the party or coalition of parties with a majority of members in the House of Representatives. The leader of this party becomes the leader of the Australian government, who is called the Prime Minister. The party or coalition of parties with the second largest number of members in the House of Representatives forms the opposition. Its leader is called the Leader of the Opposition. The Prime Minister recommends members of the House of Representatives or senators to become ministers in the Australian government. The Governor-General approves the appointment of the Prime Minister and ministers. Government ministers are responsible for an area of government called portfolio, such as employment, Indigenous affairs, or treasury. Ministers with the most important portfolios make up the cabinet. The cabinet is the key decision-making body of government. How are laws in Australia made? If a member of the Australian Parliament proposes to introduce a new law, this proposal is called a bill. Then the House of Representatives and the Senate consider it, debate, and vote on whether they agree with the bill. If the majority of members in each House of Parliament agree to the bill, it goes to the Governor-General. Then the Governor-General signs a bill so that it becomes a law, and this is called the royal assent. How are laws in Australia enforced? The laws are enforced through the courts, judges and magistrates, juries, and the police. Courts. A court will decide if a person has or has not broken the law and decide the penalty. Judges or magistrates. Judge or magistrate is the highest authority in the court, and they are appointed by the government. Juries. A jury is a group of ordinary Australian citizens randomly chosen from the general population used by the court to decide in some cases if a person is guilty or not. In a criminal trial, if the jury finds a person guilty, the judge decides the penalty. Police. The police maintain peace and order in the community and protect life and property. If the police believe that someone has broken the law, they can arrest them and bring them before a court of law. Australian Federal Police, or AFP, is the name of Australia's National Police Force. AFP investigates crimes against federal laws like drug trafficking, crimes against national security, and environment. Criminal offences in Australia. I just want to highlight some of the most serious crimes in Australia, which include murder, assault, sexual assault, violence against people or property, armed robbery or theft, having sexual relation with children or young people who are aged below the legal age of consent, dangerous driving of a motor car, possession of illegal drugs, and food. Violence towards another person is illegal in Australia and is a very serious crime. This includes violence within the home and within marriage, known as domestic or family violence. Domestic and family violence includes behavior or threats that aim to control a partner by causing fear or threatening their safety. Domestic and family violence can include hitting, isolating a family member from friends and families, or threatening children or pets. Domestic and family violence is not accepted and is against the law. It is also very important to know the traffic offenses in Australia, so I'm going to highlight the important things. People can be fined or sent to prison for breaking the traffic laws. To drive a car in Australia, you must have a local driver's license and the car must be registered. Everybody traveling in a car must wear a seat belt. Babies and young children must be in an approved car seat. Traffic laws are very strict. It is illegal to drive after taking drugs or if you are above the blood alcohol limit. It is also against the law to use a handheld mobile device while driving. If you know that someone is breaking the law, please call the police immediately. So that's it for the Australian Citizenship Testable Booklet Part 3, everyone. I hope that you still keep on studying so that you will get 100% score on your upcoming Australian Citizenship test. And I love to thank you very much for your well wishes and your prayers for me, because it's very effective. I am well now. I can move, I can walk. I love it. But I cannot sit longer because my back is still aching, but it doesn't matter. I can do it now and I'm a bit better. And so thank you so much for watching on my channel, and please just hang in there because part 4, or the Australian values, will be uploaded soon. I will be making it very soon. Thank you so much for watching. See you when I see you. Bye. I love you.